Hi, everybody. I'm Candid Stanisci of CFL Talk, and of course, Football Talk, which is what we're doing now in the offseason of the Canadian Football League. Welcome to the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app at the respective app stores for iOS and Android devices. While you download the app, make sure you rate and leave a comment. Both apps are absolutely free. Zingo TV is available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and also on all smart TVs 2016 forward. Now, joining me as usual, David Morassutti. David, how's it going, buddy?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
I'm irritated.
You're irritated. Uh-oh.
I am flummoxed. I am
Uh-oh.
pissed. I am everything that you could possibly be for the last, 8, 10 years, maybe 11 years, I've had a YouTube channel.
No.
And YouTube, in its infinite wisdom, has decided to suspend my account.
Mm-hmm.
The issue I have is they won't tell me why.
Usually they don't. Usually they don't. They'll say we don't need a reason. We just do it.
Yeah, I definitely have and do understand that theory. And Eduardo tells me also Spanglish World was suspended as well. So I might have been caught up in whatever caught Eduardo up, and we're caught up in it together because I stream the stuff. Well, the stuff I do goes onto my channel, and I'm very. It's very frustrating because I create stuff and I can't access it, and somebody's not telling me why I can't. And I'm wondering, is there a story here? one that's
tough to say.
Anyway, I just thought I'd get that off my chest. I've been waiting for a couple of weeks now for them. They promised me within 48 hours they'd get back to me. They have not. And I know from going on the internet, there are other people with the same issue. What I can say with total sincerity and honesty, I don't think I've done anything that should get me removed, other than what I do. And I don't think that entitles them to remove me. The only other thing I can think about is that maybe someone with some power has decided to put in their ear, and that powerful person could be somebody in the basement on the keyboard, if you know what I'm saying, and accuse me of stuff that I haven't done. And by the time they do the investigation, they decide whether they want to have an investigation. They just say, you know what, we'll just believe the other person and we'll shut the guy down. And that's my biggest fear, is that I'm being shut down, not for what I've done, but for what somebody said. And that to me is an attack on free speech by any stretch of anyone's imagination. And that's why I'm mentioning it now. So I just, for the people that try going on there, because it's happened a few times now, that's how I found out. And for those of you that try looking there, I apologize for the inconvenience that is for the few of you that want to follow what I do, not able to see the stuff. So that's all I can say in that regard. So
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. It is. So free agency in the Canadian Football League. Talk to me. Tell me what happened in your mind.
A lot's going on. Last week we went into a bit of a there was a bit of a I wouldn't say doomsday, but it felt like a doomsday feel with the Argos losing a bunch of players. Well, Argos signed a bunch of players too. It's been a frenzy. It's been like it's always been with CFL free agency, which is there's always going to be moves being made. Right. And so, when guys leave, you find other guys to take that spot. Right. And so the big one here, all the moves that we talked about last week kind of sort of happened already. Right. AJ Willett, he's going to Saskatchewan. The guys who are leaving the Argos to join the Tiger Cats did end up doing that. The Lions have their backup quarterback, Jake Dolagala, is going over there. Calgary got their backup potential to push for a starter. Matthew Schultz is going there. The Argos signed Kadeem Carey, so they get their veteran running back. Also gave Daniel Adebaboye, who we talked about last week, an extension, which talking with some people, I said shows how much faith they have in him, that they're giving him a bit of a pay bump going into this year. I think it also shows how much faith they have. And it wasn't just Hamilton getting after the Argos for players. The Argos did the same thing back to them. Tunde Adeleke, good Canadian player who's very versatile, could play. I would say he might be the favorite to be the Adarius Pickett replacement potentially. There's
If
other
he
guys
stays healthy. If he
if he
stays
stays
healthy.
healthy. They also signed. They signed also another guy out of BC that I'm forgetting right now, who could also play in that role. Jameer Thurman is leaving the Ticats to go and join the Rough Riders. It has been crazy. Now, this year, unlike past years, it's not going to be the quarterback carousel because there wasn't really a starting quarterback
In
out.
the backup role, though, there's a lot of that.
Yeah,
There's a lot
exactly.
of backups have moved around.
Right? So, yeah, you've seen backups kind of move around a little bit here. And, yeah, let's not forget the defensive player of the year is no longer in the CFL. Matthew Betts is going down to the NFL. He's gone from one line to another line. He went from it'll be easy. He doesn't even have to change his business card. I'm a member of the Lions.
There you go.
I'm now the Detroit Lions, not the BC
And
Lions.
if you really like him, all you have to stay. You can be a Lion fan still. There's no problem.
Exactly. Made life very easy for them. Yeah, it has. But I think a lot of people are the one team that seems to not be too thrilled right now is Ottawa. Ottawa, they go out and they get a Darius Pickett, really good defender, and then it's like, is that it? Well, technically they got Drew Brown too, but like, there really hasn't been a lot that's gone on.
Oh, and there has to be mention of Dylan Wynn leaving Hamilton to go to Montreal.
Yep, that one was a surprising one because I thought Dylan Wynn really loved being in Hamilton, but we also know that Tiger Cat's been signing all these guys from the Argos. There's only so many players you can play on that defensive line, right? They got Hendricks, they got Barlow, some pretty good guys there. The Argos brought back Sean Oakman, so Dylan Wynn, that's a big ad for Montreal. If you want a guy that's going to be a disruptor on the defensive line, he's been that even from his days with the Argos and joining Hamilton. He's
another big Hamilton guy gone is Jameer Thurman to Saskatchewan.
Yep, Jameer Thurman going to Saskatchewan. Like, it's been a crazy bit of news here because if you're looking at players who have left teams, and it happened well before free agency even started off, right? Like, I'm just looking here. Who's the one that left? Like, so many guys that have left before were kind of taken out before free agency, that already were released and signed with new teams. Like, this has been going on for quite a bit here, and so, like, if you're surprised of any of the moves, this is generally what free agency does to you, right? There's still some really good players still available. I'll say that.
We mentioned Javon Leake last week, so we mentioned him.
Javon Leake, we knew that was a done deal. Yeah. Looking at players who are, some people are probably wondering, oh, who's still available? Tim White, he's looking for apparently a contract in the $300,000 range. Good luck with that, because guess what's happening right now? All the money is being spent, and there's not going to be that much money available for a guy like him. Jamal Morrow looked like he was going to join Calgary, but apparently there was an issue with the medical, so that deal's on hold. Deontay Evans is still around. Janarian Grant is still around. AC Leonard, I believe, is still available. Robertson Daniel, a little surprised he's not back in Toronto, considering how much they lost on their defensive backfield. Cam Phillips, someone that's played a pretty decent role in Toronto. Rashid Bailey, I thought a pretty good veteran receiver. If you're looking for a dependable guy, he's someone you go at. You know who's also available? And I don't know why he's not getting talked about this much. Lucky Whitehead.
Yep.
I
He's 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 had a tough season. He had a tough season with injuries
mhm,
and he didn't seem to get on track. Not to the he was he he his well, let's just say his star is not up as high in the constellation as it has been in the past,
mhm,
right? But that doesn't mean he can't repeat what he did. But this is the thing about free agency too, David. It's wow. Like even as a fan, just never mind a casual fan, because this doesn't matter to a casual fan, right? All this activity with these players changing locations means nothing to the casual fan. But the fan who considers themselves sort of a coach GM, there's a lot of additions and subtractions, and the excitement of saying how great it is to have player A and then realize player B is gone. And like a chemist in a chemistry lab, you're putting everything together. So I think a lot of people still haven't wrapped their heads around the changes that have been made thus far, and the few that are going to come are just going to confuse it continually. It's going to continue to be confusing, and then they're going to have the draft, and then they're going to draft players that the way it's worked recently, the players that get drafted, they could become starters in the CFL today. It's amazing how quickly we've had a few players become extremely impactful
yeah.
in the game. And that's something to look forward to. And that's something the chemist can add to the beakers and start shaking and rattling and, of course, rolling.
Oh, for sure. I mean, when you look at how teams have tried to find ways to save money, get cap compliant, they find ways to supplement some of this talent by going to the draft. And the draft, we're starting to see it's not just uh, offensive linemen going in the first round anymore. You're seeing defensive linemen. You're seeing defense backs. You're seeing everything, right?
Absolutely.
It's just the way that it's the evaluation and maybe having better talent evaluators, teams willing to give younger players more responsibility that they didn't get before too.
Yes. Yes. And you know what we learn each and every year, the teams that percolate to the top uh, do it with depth, and depth in a cap world is very important. Um, the difficulty, of course, is that retaining players is becoming harder and harder and harder, and we're seeing it. Not I don't know if we're seeing it with Montreal, because they were kind of a bit of a surprise and maybe even an anomaly in moving on to winning the Grey Cup. Um, it might not be noticeable with them, but it's definitely, as a league, we're seeing a lot of changes, and those changes are very interesting.
Oh no, it is very interesting, and some players are going to be left disappointed about
Now,
where their some players unfortunately underestimate their market position as well. I believe.
talk to me about Kadeem Carey.
I've
He
always been a huge fan of Kadeem Carey. The issue with Kadeem Carey has never been production. That Calgary rushing attack has been a two-headed monster the last few years. Anytime really they play the Argos, it was the Kadeem Carey show. He was the one that would, you know, he plays a very tough physical style game. You know, I'm sure I don't know if Ryan Dinwiddie worked with him a lot during his time in Calgary, maybe just a little bit near the end there. But to me, he was the first running back I thought about when AJ Roulette.
Yep, you
Uh,
did it here on the program.
right, I kind of brought that up, and Ben, we were already kind of hearing it. Um, so that's kind of where I was at with that. Um, I think this is a great move for the Argos. I think what happened there was I think he was hoping I think he was hoping to have a bit of a bidding war between the Argos and the Lions. But the issue with the running back position is there are other guys out there, and BC's like, we're not. Why don't we just go and get William Stanback, who's available, right? You know, and that's where I think I think that's where maybe I would say he misstepped a little bit, but I think maybe he underestimated what the market was potentially like. But I think if you're the Argos, you should be very happy about this because losing AJ Ouellette hurts. It certainly does. He was a very productive player, but and again, I don't know what Kadeem Carey's value is going to be, but I think it works. I think this tandem will work very well of Carey and Adebayoye. They still have Deonta McMahon on a rookie deal too. I think there's some potential there. I think they like what he showed in spurts last year. I think they believed he has more to give. So if the Argos certainly had a plan. I think they understood that if AJ was going to leave, and look, I don't know. Again, did AJ take a pay cut? Did he take more to go to Saskatchewan? I don't know, but some people are also telling me it feels like AJ liked Saskatchewan more. He really liked what the Rough Riders are all about, and look, he also's got some familiarity there with Corey Mace as the head coach.
Yeah, I I personally believe that running backs. I'm I'm looking at AJ Willett, and I'm concerned that he's another Wilder that has a couple of really good years. And we've seen this movie before, specifically in Toronto. Wilder had a couple of good years, and then something happened where he just lost his mojo. And I'm worried that with what happened with the Eastern Final, the concussion is a concern um, for me for his health and stuff. We know that concussions can tend to repeat, right? And that's the biggest problem with concussions. And the way he likes to play, head first football, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, does make him a candidate for those kinds of injuries again. And the amount of money that he was asking and probably got, I know we don't know exactly how much, but it's my understanding that he got a pretty good bump to go to Saskatchewan. The Argos, they have to make a judgment call. And then we hear that, the quarterback Kelly has restructured his contract to kind of help out with the cap. And I think we understand now by that action, by the action of AJ Willett going, I think the Argos are and telling all the players, whoever wants to, you want more money, you want more than this, then go check it out. The Argos are making an early determination. They're saying if you don't want to be here and you're here, nope, not going to work. So you better decide you want to be here and
Mm-hmm.
decide now. And I think that's the smart thing for every team to do because anytime players start to waffle, it creates a problem within the team.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you have a guy that was on the team, he's still talking to his teammates, and I think it's a bit of an issue. So it's best to nail it all down as much as you can, considering how wild everything is. And I think that's the smart move. And if we look back to every team that's been a bit of a dynasty kind of team, that's what happens. They don't have really good players standing outside waiting to negotiate, negotiating, I'm not sure, and all this stuff. We see problems permeate from those kinds of situations. Whereas most times teams that are prepared to make the tough decisions quickly go into the season a little more prepared.
Yeah, I look, I have no issue with that. Like at the end of the day, it's a business, but you also have to think about you have to think about the team chemistry and our players do players who feel like they can look at the end of the day, the players have to do what's best themselves as well, right? They have to make
Absolutely.
sure that they're looking after their families. They can't if there's the ability to make more money that is life changing for your family, you have to do it, right? as much as you may like a situation, may like a team, there gets to a point where you have to make that tough decision. It's a tough decision. I don't think AJ Willett, this would have been an easy decision to leave Toronto. I think he liked Toronto a lot, but it's clear that he also really likes Saskatchewan. Like he's already painted that hammer green. The Thor hammer is already green. And look, I get the frustration from fans too, because they're like, I bought an AJ Willett jersey, and now it's like I can't wear it. I don't like that thought process.
You can still wear it.
You can still wear it. The guy won a Grey Cup. Guy played a big role in that Grey Cup victory. It was probably something that didn't get talked about a lot because of the
I have a
chat.
Ricky Ray jersey. I have a
Right?
Ricky Ray jersey. He's not playing on the team anymore. It doesn't make any difference.
Guys come and go. You have to be willing to. It's a tough business. I understand that you don't always want to go out and get a jersey if a player's going to leave, but you know what? It happens in sports, unfortunately.
Here's the big but. The big but. The big but is that if you're a really dedicated fan and you love your team and you want to identify with a player, you want to get a jersey and you want to get a player's jersey, a specific player. The logo in the front is good enough for you, but you like that name on the back. So there are people out there who are very dedicated to players on their team. In my time, I've seen many a fan follow the player. I've seen players who go to Hamilton. Argo fans still support those players, still talk to those players, still have a really good relationship with their players. So I don't think anybody here is poo-pooing the idea that you be dedicated to a player and be a fan of a player, not just of a team. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But all I'm saying, and I think David's saying too, is that if you're a fan of the team, you're a fan of the team. If you're a fan of the player, okay, you're a fan of the player. But the teams cannot keep the same players on the team, so it's not something that that we can appreciate in regards to being a fan and expect teams to bend to our will. That isn't going to happen, unfortunately. And folks, when you buy a jersey, today with free agency, the way it works, there's a good chance that player, no matter how good or how bad, almost on the same level, both could be gone. A really good player and a really bad player equally. The opportunity can arise where that happens. But, I believe in the logo in the front, and the name in the back is really great. But, the good news is that, when you're facing the team, they really don't see the player's name. They do see the number. And what's in a number? So it is what it is. I guess I feel badly because I have some friends who have been very dedicated to players and bought jersey. Wilder's one of them, and what happened with him and the Argos is too bad when you consider the start that he had with the Argos, the Grey Cup. Sound familiar? AJ Willett, won a Grey Cup. Then Wilder came back the next year, didn't do that well. This year, OJ Willett did a fantastic job. Didn't do well in the Eastern Final. So players get sometimes more credit than they deserve, and they get more blame than they deserve sometimes. So support your players however you wish, folks, but don't expect that jersey to last forever. And it's just that's the nature of the game.
Yeah, no, it is the nature of it. That's sports nowadays. It's about finding that next opportunity, and teams and players they're all in the same boat.
I got mine. Doesn't have a name or a
I was going to say, are we going to get to the game, or are we going to do it?
Yeah, we'll get to the game. Let's. Where are we here? We're time wise. I'm trying to see the clock. We're about halfway. You know what? Now's a good time to do it. We didn't have much time yesterday to talk about the preparation, so I guess we can start by talking about the Super Bowl in anticipation. For the sake of conversation, we didn't get a chance to see what we thought would be the case in the game. So I'll approach that question in a different way. What didn't happen that you expected to happen, David?
What didn't happen? I expected more from the San Francisco offense. I really did. Again, it continues to amaze me how, you know what? Yes, did the Kansas City Chiefs you know, force the Niners to change their game plan a little bit when it came to the running game? Yes, it did. But George Kittle did not get used that much. Debo Samuel sparingly used. Like Juwan Jennings would have been the hero of that Super Bowl for the 49ers on offense if they had won. I had a hard time figuring out who was going to be the MVP for San Francisco. It would have probably been
If there
Juwan Jennings at that point. You know, I just can't believe, a team like the 49ers were viewed as the runaway favorites midway through the year because they could not be stopped. And from that game that they lost against the Ravens, we saw little cracks along it, but that game against the Ravens showed that team was vulnerable.
Yeah, it did. It did. I okay. For me? What didn't happen that I thought was going to happen? I have to say what I didn't think would happen would be San Francisco's ability to take the lead, because I really thought that for Kansas City to win, I thought really it would have been better for them to be in the driver's seat. I guess what I didn't expect to happen, the fairest thing I can say is I didn't expect I didn't expect Mahomes to do it again. I thought for sure that the defense of Kansas City would have been the reason why they won. Um, Not because I don't respect Mahomes, but like you, I respected the defense that much more on the other side. And that didn't happen. They didn't shut them down. Um, they've been a team. San Francisco's been a team all season where they were very inconsistent, and in this game, it was basically a microcosm. To take Mahomes' word, to use the same phrase he used, this game was an example of how our team went this year. Well, in fact, it went that way for Kansas City. He's saying, I kind of agree. The same thing's true about San Francisco. That they had a really good start to their season, and then they started to trip a little bit, right? And that's essentially what they did in this game. I didn't expect that to happen.
For me, what was apparent in this game, as soon as Mahomes can beat you in many different ways, but the one way you don't want him to beat you is with his legs. Because he can make a harmless 10-yard run turn into a 30 yard gain. And he did that, right? Overtime. San Francisco, as much grief they were getting about overtime and taking the ball first, and did they know the rule or not? They had the field goal. All they had to do was get a stop, and they had their opportunities. Problem is, and guess what? The coach, I don't know if you saw before we came on, the defensive coordinator was fired. It
Wow.
seemed like, and all game long, there was one part in the game where San Francisco took a timeout because the head coach was not happy with what what was being called by the defensive coordinator. And to me, that's an issue. If you are not on the same ball, if you are not on the same page on how to stop Patrick Mahomes, you are going to have a problem. And they did. The first half was exemplary of how they needed to do it. And the problem is you have to account for the adjustments, and they didn't. And that's the
Absolutely.
that's the sad part.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. So I seemed a little distracted. That's because I was getting a new background photo.
Uh,
That's
okay, can I also
Sorry.
ask you? This is a little off. Maybe it's on topic for the game, a little off topic. Giving the trophy to the owner first.
It happens too often.
I'm trying to remember. Does it happen in the CFL? I don't think so.
I'm trying to remember. I think Larry Tannenbaum. I remember him holding the
I don't
trophy.
think he got it first. I know he probably was mentioned, but at the parade he spoke. But I don't think he got it first. But it goes to show
It doesn't matter
MLB,
whether they do it or not.
NFL,
You don't like
NBA,
the idea. I think that's the important thing.
NFL, NBA, and MLB all give it's the owners first. It speaks a little bit to the culture. It's funny. It almost like the Chiefs owners like giving kudos to the players for playing a good game. And it's like, yeah, they're the reason why you're up there on that stage right now. Like, yeah, he pays the bills, but it's at the end of the day, it's the workers that get the job done. I found that to be interesting.
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
The owners, but you do realize that the owners are like the important factor, if not to everyone else, to you know themselves. That they run the show. They get an opportunity. I mean, if there's no other time, if it's not enough for an owner to be an owner of an NFL team, I'll give you an example. Here's an example. The owner of the Buffalo Bills received $800 million from the state government to put towards a 1 point something billion-dollar stadium, right? And at the same time, the family services were cut by $800 million. The exact numbers I'm not giving. I think there was a few more dollars cut than there was added to or given to the Bills. My point is, that's what sports is. Being an owner of a franchise in almost any sport affords you the kind of favoritism, opportunity, and power that you're literally now you earn the money to buy the team. Don't get me wrong. But just because you buy the team, there's this power attached to being an owner of in the NFL. That's my opinion. And it doesn't surprise me. I agree with you. I disagree that they should give it to the owner first, definitely. And I think it should be like after, you know, I guess after the coach being first. Is that what you think? The head coach,
Give it,
order wise? Like,
give it to
who do you
give
think
it.
should get
I
it
would say the
first?
head coach. Yeah,
Yeah.
the head coach is the next one, right? He's the one that goes right after the owner. I think it should be the head coach. He's puts the game plan together. He gets the players ready. Without the head
The
coach,
GM might get a vote or two because, they don't get much credit,
no, they don't.
you know, right? They don't get
But
much
the thing is,
credit.
not every
They're
team has a
behind
GM. It's not the similar structure in the NFL with every team, right? So,
right
like in Dallas, there's technically no general manager. It's Jerry
to speak
and
up.
everybody else. So, I would say, I would say, the head coach should be first. Then it should be the quarterback or MVP of the game.
Yeah. Well, I guess, well, anyway, we've seen, how the popularity, the popularity of players. We can't not talk about Travis Kelce and his lovely lady.
That
13 times she was shown before they
I
won.
think it was less than 1% of the actual game itself was
Right.
on Taylor Swift. My my feeling on that is everyone's talking about how the NFL got the storyline they wanted. They got the fairy tale ending that they wanted. True, yeah, I think I can get behind that. At the same time, is it the worst thing? That was the most watched Super Bowl ever.
Ever.
I ran into Here's a good way to show this. I ran into someone at the grocery store from my church. Haven't seen them in a little bit. I remember, and she was with her daughter, and I asked the daughter, catching up. They were asking me about the Super Bowl because they know I work in sports. I said, "Did you guys watch it?" Yeah, we watched it because we wanted to see Taylor and Usher. I said, "What did you think?" Oh, it was good. The NFL is genius.
Total genius.
They leaned
And
into
lucky.
this like no other league would. Maybe the NBA would consider something like that. But here's the difference between the NBA and the NFL. The NFL, it's one day of the week. They can lean into this. The Super Bowl is one day. There's no other sports league in the States. Yes, Canada, we have the Grey Cup. I know that. But no other league will do what the NFL just did with Taylor Swift and did it perfectly. And to me, it didn't change the way I felt about the game. The game was still the primary part. The fact that it had the fairy tale ending of the overtime win, only the second ever time that a Super Bowl has ended in overtime. That was a great storyline. But you can't help but feel like Taylor Swift, the impact that had. And if you're a sports league out there looking for a way to gravitate to different audiences, the NFL just gave you the blueprint. Now, you can't get Taylor Swift to be involved in every other sports league, or maybe you can. I don't know.
Well, I don't think, I think the Super Bowl, let's walk through the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl popularity, it's anchored in the game. It's anchored in gambling. It's anchored in the fans that follow the NFL and love the NFL and think of the Super Bowl as a football game. But for years now, it's been a place where you see Michael Jackson, you see his sister, you see former Aerosmith, you see former rock stars, you see state of the art rock stars. They come in. The step to Taylor Swift, I think, is just tiny a little shift to that area. But what they did was they took it out of halftime and brought it in during the game. So now Taylor Swift becomes a factor during the game that Usher isn't. Usher only was a matter of what happened in the halftime. They've taken what you're talking about, which is where I agree with you. They've made it part of the game, and they made it part of the social fabric. Politicians made it a part of their belief in the conspiracy theorists. They got involved. So all of a sudden, you have everything. You had politics thrown in there, through Taylor and her boyfriend, who did vaccine commercials, and the fervor of whatever you want to refer to what was going on fed into the experience that is the NFL Super Bowl, and it added interest. Like how many people are aware before the Super Bowl is played that it's going to be played? A lot of people, and I'm going to say this, a lot of people are aware of the game because people are going to get together at Super Bowl parties everywhere, of which maybe 50% of the people that are at the Super Bowl party actually know the names of the teams that are playing in the game. You know what I mean? Like that's the Super Bowl. It's immense. It affects everybody. Like I said, it's the Super Bowl party is a big deal. Everybody has a Super Bowl party. Every restaurant wants to say, we're the place where you're going to see the Super Bowl and you're going to love it. So leave your money here. That's the way it works. That's the way it works. The NFL and the Super Bowl, David, have become a monster mega advertising machine. And if you don't believe me, folks, tell me of another championship where you can actually go. They used to do it on regular network television, but you can go on YouTube and watch the commercials that are going to be played during the commercials. We're not talking about statistics. We're talking about commercials that are going to be in the game are a big deal. Everything about the NFL is a big deal. Everything is a magnificent thing when it comes to the Super Bowl.
And look, if the Super Bowl remains the number one item on my bucket list of sporting events I want to go to,
Well, I hope you get to go as a reporter because it'll be cheaper.
I would agree with that. Did you hear that there were tickets going for $30,000 on the resale market? Face value was still $9,000. That eventually went down to, or sorry, the face value was 7. They were on the secondary market for 30, but they then got lowered down to 9,000.
Oh, so it was only +2 after all said and done.
When I saw those figures, of course it's Vegas. Everything is more expensive. Vegas. My heart sank. My heart did sink.
I have to say, I got this for my birthday. By the way, I didn't buy it. I didn't
It's
buy
very nice.
it is very nice. And they also bought me a hat. A couple of my friends bought me a hat. And so, if I may share my experience watching the Super Bowl, I said Super Bowl party, right? Went to one. 28, 30 people there. I'm going to go. There were probably a handful of people that really didn't care how the game ended up. But of the people who cared how it ended up, there were only a couple of people who were rooting for Kansas City. And one of them I know real well. We go out a lot. Oh yeah, we share the same place. She and one other person were rooting for Kansas City. And I did my CFL Argo thing, reporter thing. I didn't cheer at all. I didn't even think about cheering. I was just watching the game. But man, when San Francisco did good stuff, I'm going, I'm in the wrong place. This is not the place to be wearing what you're wearing, because I was wearing this. And they were cheering for the other team. So imagine now the team that I'm cheering for, me and one other or two other people, we end up winning. And one of my friends goes, Frank, why didn't you rub it in their faces that you guys won? I said, you know what? Because this is after, I just realized, I said to her, I said, I think it's because from sitting in the press box, we're told not to cheer, and I've learned not to cheer. and you know what? It actually happened, because this is I'm a Kansas City fan from before Mahomes. I say that for a reason, because I liked the coach when he got there, Bear.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I just don't feel cheering publicly is a good idea, and I've learned to enjoy the game, I guess, at a different level. So for those of you that are fans, and everything that you're watching and you're thinking is so out there, your heart's on your sleeve. Well, for Frank and David, I'm going to speak for David at this point, but I'll take you out of the equation again. So for me, it's basically, I'm watching a football game, and I'm looking at it to go, now what am I going to say about this football game? What do I think of this football game? Cheering for a team over another gets in the way of you doing that. That's it for me.
I was
So,
working, right?
even worse.
I don't have the like I didn't cheer either,
You-
right? I didn't have that ability, right? And so, Frank, we've been to a couple of Grey Cups or now,
Absolutely.
right? We know it's
We're
being
trained.
trained in the moment, right? And so you think about the players and how composed they have to be in situations,
Yeah.
right? You still have to go out and you have to execute in those moments, right? The big one for me was that even that play to win the game, you still had a lot that had to go your way to make that play work.
Yeah, and what I'll say is this, and in this house, there was a tough time there, because when San Francisco scored, they had a board of scores, right? And people
Mhm.
picked different scores, and basically it was San Francisco, Kansas City. What's the score at the end of the game?
Yeah.
Well, don't you know, the person I lived with, if Kansas City hadn't scored, would have won $180.
I used to do the squares. I won the squares one year. It's a great tradition. It's It's a fun thing because then you cheer
Even
for.
I was conflicted. Even I was conflicted when San Francisco couldn't hold Kansas City back.
Yeah, I know. I get that. It's I didn't think that was, you know what, the other thing too, and I think we hadn't even talked about this. That overtime saved what was
Oh,
not the
absolutely.
best game, to be honest.
Longest game ever.
Longest game ever, and it was also like these teams know they're playing for a Super Bowl right now. A lot of conservative play calling, fumbles, turnovers, a fumble off a punt. Like, what are we doing here?
And you know what? They finally made the right decision on overtime, and it came right on time because that new overtime really showed why it should be that way. The game ended on a touchdown. And I'm not
Yeah.
against field goals. I'm not against field goal kickers, but nothing ends a game better in football than a touchdown. It's so important. The touchdown is so important. They don't even let you kick the extra point.
Yeah. I agree with that. What I didn't like about what San Francisco did was they were way too conservative. They didn't play the clock properly, especially at the end of the game there in the fourth quarter. If you're going to go and kick a field goal, if that's eventually what you're going to end up doing, run the ball so you take as much time off the clock. Frank, you and I have seen Patrick Mahomes go down the field with 15 seconds left in the game to kick a field goal to send the game to overtime. The Buffalo Bills probably thought they had that game won because they only left them 15 seconds. And what
That's
does
the
he do?
problem.
You
That's why I said I was kind of surprised that he did it again because, as soon as he finishes doing it, you go, not again. And even as a person rooting for the team, or went in rooting for the team, I told you how I acted.
Yeah.
Um, it was wow, he did it again. That's what makes him so amazing, and makes what San Francisco did a shame for their fans.
It's very, yeah, I felt bad for San Francisco's fans. Like they deserve, that team probably should have won, but the issue is they didn't play to their strengths.
Yeah,
Christian McCaffrey got used, but I feel like they were easy to pull it away from him when they didn't need to.
yeah, was a good
So
game.
it
I
was a
was
good game.
fairly
It was a
entertained.
memorable Super Bowl, and that's what the NFL wanted. At the end
Well,
of the
you know
day.
what? They learned from the Canadian Football League once again, so that we bring this to where we belong and talking about how great the Canadian Football League is. The rules in the Canadian Football League were that and have been that for a while. CFL walked away from instant winning, basically, and the whole thing of why that didn't work and why it got changed is the fact is the old way. All you had to do was win the toss.
I didn't. Yeah, everyone said the NFL games were being decided on a coin toss.
Bad, not good.
No, not good at all.
Well, David, this was fun, buddy.
Thank you, Frank.
Always enjoy doing it. He's David Morassutti. I'm Candid Frank Stanisci for David Morassutti and myself. Thank you for watching CFL Talk, football talk as well, the Super Bowl talk, in fact, tonight. The show can also be heard on the Spanglish World Radio Network. For CFL Talk news, entertainment, and sports programming we offer, please check out SpanglishWorld.ca. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and live it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Until next time, I'm Candid Frank.